Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the latest issue of Warhammer 40k Imperium magazine. Now, as per usual, if you like these videos, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course drop a comment down below. I love hearing back from you guys and it goes a massive way to help the channel too. Now, this week we are on issue 17 of Imperium magazine and we have the second of the 3 sprues for the good old armoured container, barrels and crates. Pretty decent scenery, adds a little bit of extra to your battle mats and everything like that as well, and your games, because it provides cover and obstacles for you to get around, so pretty cool stuff. Into issue 17 itself though, we're greeted by the Ultramarines, injuries and grudges. This is for your background, to give you a little bit of extra flavour for your games and for your units. So, in battle after battle, Space Marines must endure the deadly weaponry of their countless foes. Many battle brothers bear scars from past encounters and hold a lingering hatred for the foe that inflicted them. So, with the Space Marines, of course, they live for a long period of time. They go through countless fights and will pick up grudges, hatred, and injuries over the course of time. So, the vengeful fury, when Space Marines are engaged in a long campaign against lethal and numerous foes, such as the Necrons, lasting enmities are quickly established. An Ultramarine would never disobey orders to pursue a personal crusade of vengeance, but may well bear a grudge against a particular enemy and fight harder and with more fury when engaging with such a foe. So, for instance, you can roll to good old generate these grudges that you may have that certain Space Marines may have towards certain enemies. For instance, you could have them kind of having the grudge of wanting to hunt down Necron immortals, wishing to annihilate the Necron nobility, or even focusing fire on Canoptek spiders. But yeah, really good stuff. And adds a little bit more to your game, which is always really handy, especially in pretty much anything like this. There is also a hero injuries table and an injuries and losses table as well. So, Space Marine heroes and commanders lead by example, fighting alongside their troops and engaging the most powerful enemies in combat. Even the greatest and most skilled of Space Marine heroes sport wounds inflicted in the press of battle. So, for instance, you can roll to actually have certain injuries. So you could actually have, for instance, the left leg has been lacerated by a flensing claw, or you can have the left arm being impaled by a blade. But yeah, you can have a little bit of things like that as well, so you can roll for those and give those to your heroes if you wish to as well. Then the injuries and losses. So despite their superhuman forms and mighty power army, Space Marines are not completely impervious to harm. Space Marine squads are constantly at war and are guaranteed to suffer attrition and combat damage during the course of their service. So attrition, of course, is when you kind of the gradual grinding down that a war would have on soldiers and troops as well. So, for instance, the injuries and losses generator, you could actually have, for instance, armor damaged by an orbital strike. You could have them deafened during retreat, or even partially blinded by enemy artillery, for instance. So you can have a lot of these little bits and pieces to kind of add to your service records and the record of battle for each of your Space Marine troops, soldiers, heroes, the entire lot. Really good stuff though, and it does add a lot more to your game as well, so it's really quite fun. Then we move on, we have a page about the Necron outcasts. So many Necrons are afflicted by madness, yet there are some whose insanity is so fearful and disturbing that they are shunned even by their own kind. So, these are the Necrons that are essentially cast out from the regular society of the Necron race. They are generally a little bit nuts, and they have a little bit more kind of in common with a bit of insanity. So there are, of course, the flayed ones, which of course we've had recently. So the flayed ones are twisted in both mind and body by the Flayer Cursed. They exist within their own extra-dimensional realm, emerging only to feast on organic flesh. They are able to sense when their Necron kin are at war and appear unbidden to slaughter, feast, and take gruesome trophies from the fallen. Of course, as machines, they can never hope to satisfy their eternal hunger. So, of course, the Flayers are around, and they are a little bit nuts, they are a bit twisted, and, you know, they look slightly different. They have them elongated, kind of like claws, and very melee based, and they do like to carry the trophies of the skin of their enemies that they've slaughtered, and stuff like that. We have Scorpec Destroyers, so these are members of the Destroyer cults with 3 sharply pointed legs and a hyperphase blade fitted to their arms. Though their forms may look ungainly, they appear graceful on the battlefield, whirling and pirouetting through the enemy lines and leaving a trail of blood and gore in their wake. Like all destroyers, are utterly consumed by their hatred of organic life. They rarely respond to the orders of Necron nobles unless they contain a promise of slaughter, but they can be relied upon to butcher the living. There is then the Locust Destroyers, which are these big chunky guys who kind of hover above the battlefield and have these big massive weapons. So these are Necron Immortals or Lich Guard, who have had their bodies modified to help them annihilate living beings with even greater efficiency. So those who become Locust Destroyers are fused to a floating chassis that allows them to traverse the battlefield swiftly. This new form has the added benefit of providing a stable weapons platform from which they may fire their gigantic Gauss weapon destructors and enigmatic exterminators with unerring accuracy. Then there are the other destroyers as well, so there are other destroyer cults. So these are the Hexmark destroyers, of which are former Deathmark snipers who now sport 6 arms, each grasping an enigmatic disintegrator pistol. And then there are the Ophidian destroyers, meanwhile, that are more reminiscent of Canoptek constructs, with snake-like mechanical bodies, bladed arms, and lethal Ophidian claws, and the ability to phase through solid structures. So, yeah, you don't want to encounter them very often, do you? But yeah, really, really good stuff, and it's nice to have a little bit of lore about some of the upcoming models that we will be getting, because we do get, I think, at least 1 Locust Destroyer, or maybe 2. And we think there are a couple of other models as well that we will get in there with the Necron warriors and the Necron forces, which will keep us on our toes and have a little bit of insight to them in advance. Then we have Worlds of the Imperium, so this is of course the realm of mankind. So there are many different cities, so the Imperium's territories encompass countless systems spanning the length and breadth of the galaxy. Even in the most remote and punishing environments, humanity's colonies cling to survival. So, with good old the Imperium, it does spread all over the place. There are vast hive cities, for instance. There are imperial ships, and then there are galactic phenomena as well that can appear throughout the universe. There are the Hive Worlds, so these are covered in vast hive cities that rise out of the earth to pierce the clouds. A hive city is a self-contained structure filled with polluting factories and cramped inhabitants. So, if you want to know more about Hive Worlds, Necromunda is the game for you, which is essentially all the human gangs and Ogrid gangs fighting against each other to control the underhives. So the underhives are a vast network of kind of substructures beneath the hive cities themselves, and yeah, we're battling for control over those because that is the way that gangs work. There are feudal worlds, so they do not possess advanced technology. The citizens of these worlds, whether peasants, farmers, or noble lords, have little understanding of the wider Imperium. So this is your regular kind of world within the 40k universe. They may not have any advanced technology, they may not know exactly what's going on in the wider empire or anything like that, or the Imperium, but they do actually kind of know a little bit here and there, and they do have a recognised civilization. Then there are the feral worlds, so these are isolated planets whose inhabitants have descended into savagery and live a primitive, violent existence. They are often harsh places fraught with danger. So this will be kind of like your nomadic tribes. They wouldn't really use much in the way of any technology, mainly using kind of the old school methods of, you know, beating each other to death with sticks, for instance, or something like that, and kind of going through the motions that way and just surviving in that general way, in all honesty. You got your how to build section. We've already had this section, in all honesty. It's exactly the same. You can build it up pretty easily, dry fit it to make it kind of stand out a little bit different. But yeah, entirely up to you how you want to go about doing it. But you can also, of course, have the doors open to the actual shelters if you wish to, or you can glue them. If you are going to glue them and have it open, you will need to kind of essentially glue it open, because it won't just sit there really. But yeah, there you go, easily done. It's simple stuff. We've had, as I say, we've had them pages before. Painting, very easy to do. It's going to teach you how to recess shade as well, using Agrax Earthshade, which is very handy to do. You can just layer the shade over the entirety if you wish to, entirely up to you. But if you do it with that, you will need to just dry brush over the top of it, and you can make it look pretty good. And also using a bit of dry brushing to kind of give it that weathered, beaten look as well for a lot of the areas, does actually make it stand out and does make it pretty decent, and you can have a lot of fun with it. But yeah, really good stuff. Teaching you how to dry brush and get a decent look out of these models, which is always good fun. Then we have our playthrough. So playthrough 17, just in time for Christmas, we have the Librarian and Inphobos armor. So you will be utilising 8 Necron warriors with Gauss flayers and your flayed ones as well. And you'll have your Librarian Inphobos armor. In this, you will place several of your pieces around here, so make sure you got your large battle mat out and set up your terrain, and off you go pretty much. So you got your data sheet for the Librarian just up there, and you'll have a bit of fun with it. So you can use your psychic abilities for the Librarian, which have some pretty cool stuff to them. You can utilise things like the bolt pistol, which has a range of 12 inches, which is also very handy to have, and the psychic abilities, which is also very good, keeping your enemies at arm's length essentially. And yeah, you can have a bit of fun with that. Of course, you will be having a lot of your good old Necrons firing and mass firing on the Librarian, and it's all going to be down to your dice rolls. Have a bit of fun with it, but you can get through all of this and keep playing through and enjoying yourself, and you can do a lot of damage, and it's just all about winning that objective at the end of it really. But really good stuff. Also, there is a pull-out section as well, so this is the Myriad Dynasties, so this is all for your Necrons. So there are, of course, the dynasties. So eons ago, the Necron Empire was encompassed of interlocking dynasties whose territories spanned the stars. Each of these dynasties has retained elements of its former culture, whilst many of their leaders have been consumed by madness and obsessions that shape their legions. So there is the Sagarian dynasty, which is the main dynasty that we've kind of been taught about and learning about all the way through. So these are the ones that have been waging war on 100 fronts and going through, and one of your main dynasties as well. There is a Mefrit dynasty listed here as well, which has that green armour and orange kind of weaponry, which is pretty damn cool as well. You have your Nilakai good old dynasty up here as well, with their white helmets. The Novok dynasty, which have a red armour, which is also really good. And on the other side, we have the Sautek dynasty, who are mostly silver with white heads in a lot of ways. Very similar to what we already have with the good old Sagarian dynasty. And then there are loads of dynasties listed all over the place as well in here, kind of giving you kind of like an idea of where each of them kind of resides in the universe, and how big some of these are as well. So some of them may look smaller than others, but they actually have got a lot going on with them. So really good stuff. But yeah, pretty decent and pretty fun. They are an awakening empire, so of course you can create your own and have a bit of fun with it. And then next week we get a Necron Technomancer on that Kinetic Spider as well that he has with him, which is pretty cool and pretty decent. The battle mat, from what I have heard, is not coming with issue 18. It will be a little bit later, from what I've heard. Some people may receive theirs, some people might not, but who knows. And then there is, in issue 19, the last sprue of the armoured container, crates and barrels. So yeah, one really good issue, the second one, yeah, but issue 20 and onwards though, we're going to pick up and we're going to get some pretty cool, interesting bits and pieces coming with a magazine, so it should be definitely worth having a look at. And we'll get the Adeptus Mechanicus soon as well, which will be really good fun. Right then, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you sometime soon. Bye bye now.